One of the biggest concerns people have is how can they pay for the treatment, right? Medical and healthcare is expensive. The good news is that insurance typically covers both inpatient and outpatient treatment, which would include the treatment we would provide in a 30-day setting, which would be a residential treatment in California. That includes detoxification services, residential treatment services, case management, therapy. Also, if you want to do outpatient treatment, which would also include group sessions, individual sessions, both therapy and case management, those services are covered by insurance. So as long as you're paying your premiums and as long as you meet your deductibles and out-of-pocket costs, then those are covered. We have a lot of in-network contracts, and so that really reduces your cost for those specific payers. And so that's something that once you call our hotline, we'll do what's called a verification of benefits. And through that process, we'll be able to look at your ID, your date of birth, your insurance, and see if what those benefits are. Once we get that verification of benefits back, we communicate that to you, let you know if everything's been met and you have no out-of-pocket costs, or if there's $1,000 deductible or maybe a small copay, whatever that is, we can explain that to you, and then you can make the educated decision of whether it makes sense. However, the good news is in the old days, for a 30-day stay, you could be looking at somewhere between $15,000 to $45,000, depending on if it's luxury or if it's regular, or what the different types of treatment are. Now with insurance, as long as you're making your premiums and you're meeting your, out-of-pocket cost, the cost for treatment has gone significantly down for you, right? And so if that's something that you can afford, or if a family member can help you, then it's a lot easier to get access to care because insurance covers the majority of your treatment stay. So, there's laws that protect your job if you meet those eligibility criteria. One example is FMLA. To get some more specifics about FMLA, to qualify for FMLA, which is a federal law, an employee must have worked for their employer for at least 12 months. They must have clocked at least 1,250 hours during that time, and they had worked at a location where the employer had 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius. So that's some of the eligibility criteria. You are allowed up to 12 work weeks of unpaid leave in a 12-month period. And specifically, you would have to show that you have a serious health condition, seeking substance use treatment or mental health treatment for an inpatient or outpatient setting, which is what our programs provide, does meet the criteria of serious health conditions. And so, if you meet those criteria, you are protected by FMLA for your job. And so you can take the time off to go to treatment. And then when you go back, you would be reinstated to the same or equivalent position. Now, in certain states, depending on what state you're in, there's certain laws that might give you additional protections. In California usually gives you additional protections and might have lower criteria as far as how many employees. I think it's 5 or more employees, as far as the radius and some of those other things. So it really depends on what state you're in, but depending on where you're at, we can answer those specific questions for you, and our team has the knowledge and resources to provide you with specific answers to your specific questions. So OceanRock Recovery provides the resources to the client either prior to admission or during their stay when they have any questions regarding, any type of benefits that they might be looking at, whether it's Social Security, whether it's medical, whether it's health insurance, whether it's job protection, things of that nature. And so our team, depending on where you're at and what your course of treatment is, they can help you and navigate you along the way. Specifically, our case management team is who would help in that scenario. And we're more than happy to be a resource. If it's prior to admission, we can give you the information you need to make an informed decision. And if it's during the course of your stay, you might have questions about how do I communicate to my employer, or how do I, do this, or what's confidential. And so the good news is that everything you do during your treatment here is confidential, and we do not disclose that to your employer or to anybody else. Only if you want us to share it, we can. So you can really feel comfortable talking to our team and they can provide you these resources in a very confidential, flexible way. So if someone's come into rehab, that means that they have a serious health condition, such as substance use disorder, or they might be here for primary mental health disorders. Those would be considered serious health conditions that are covered by FMLA for eligible employees. Again, to be considered eligible, you have to meet certain criteria. Specifically for FMLA, which is a federal law, those criteria would include that the employee has worked for that employer for over 12 months, for at least 12 months, that they have clocked in at least 1,250 hours during that 12-month period, and that they work at a location where the employer has 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius. If they meet that criteria, they would be eligible for 12 work weeks of unpaid leave during that 12-month period. And specifically, if it's a serious health condition, which if they're in treatment for what we do, which is substance use disorder or mental health disorder treatment, then they do meet that criteria, and they would have job protection. So they wouldn't be able to get fired because they have these problems because of substance abuse or because of the mental health disorder, and they would be able to get reinstated into their position or in an equivalent position. Again, there might be state laws that give you additional protections. Like in California, there's laws that give you additional protections and might have less stringent criteria. So instead of 50 employees, it could be 5 employees in California. They don't have the 75-mile radius, but overall, it still requires a 12-month amount of time being employed and other criteria. So ultimately, the good news is that once you're in our program, our case management team will go look at your specific questions and will help you navigate whether you need letters or you need information or whatever you need. We can provide those resources for you. In California, there are specific protections that give you enhanced protection. So the federal law is FMLA, which is the Family and Medical Leave Act. But in California, the equivalent to FMLA includes what's called the California Family Rights Act, the CFRA. The overview of that act is that it mirrors FMLA, that it provides eligible employees with the right to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave for specific family and medical reasons. Those serious health conditions would include substance use disorder and mental health disorders, which are things that we would treat at either an inpatient or an outpatient setting. And then in order to be eligible, employees must have worked under the California law for the employer for at least 12 months and have worked at least 1,250 hours in the past year, which is the equivalent to what the FMLA is. However, in California, they've waived the 50 employee criteria. So in California, the employers must have 5 or more employees for CFRA to apply. And so again, these are things that you definitely want either to look at your employee handbook or check in with your HR, or if you want to reach out to us, and our case management team can provide you more information. But you definitely want to look at your specific situation. There's a lot of information online, but your specific information will be relevant in determining whether or not you meet the criteria for this or any other law. And that, if you do, that's something that our team can help you with and navigate, with very intimate, private confidentiality. And so, we're not going to disclose anything to your employer. Everything you share with us is confidential, and you can feel comfortable that, we'll protect your rights in that way. So it's not necessary. An employee, if they have the type of rapport, they feel comfortable in the environment they're in to discuss that with their HR or to discuss that with their employer, they definitely have the right to do that. However, if they don't feel comfortable, then they can. It really depends on what the employer provides. Some employers have what's called an EAP program, which is an employee assistance program, and those actually are kind of separate from the actual employer. They provide confidentiality, and they can help you whether you need placement or counseling to see if treatment is an option. So if your employer has an EAP program, that's something I would look into. If not, then you can always reach out to us we have case management team and other individuals on the team that can provide you with guidance on how to navigate these situations. And anything that you discuss with us is confidential. So really, it just depends on your specific situation, your specific employer, what resources they have available. But I would always start with the employee handbook. I would take a look at, what your rights are, look into, maybe reach out to us, see if you have any questions for us. But ultimately, depending on your specific situation, you may or may not want to discuss that with your employer. And if you're scared or you don't want to, you don't have to. It's not something that you have to disclose what your actual condition is. So, even if you're afforded the ability to take time off based on these types of protections we've discussed, you don't have to actually tell them the reason why. Again, these are very case specific and things that we would want to discuss individually, but there's definitely ways to navigate that and have the confidentiality to go to treatment and get the help that you need. That's a tough one because you want to be careful as far as what you feel comfortable sharing, right? So it really depends on the rapport you have with your employer, with the HR, with the different people. Depends on the size of your company, but ultimately, you don't need to share all the specifics. So for example, you don't need to tell them that you're going to treatment for substance use or mental health disorders. You might just want to say, hey, look, I'm dealing with some medical conditions and I need to take some time off. Again, these are things that we would want to take a look at specifically to see what your eligibility criteria are, if you have certain protections in place based on the length of time you've been employed or, other types of criteria. So you always want to just see based on your exact condition, what rights are afforded to you. But ultimately, whether or not you discuss that with with the company that you work for depends on a combination of your comfort level and then also what your specific situation is. So you might want to do some additional research prior to disclosing that. And that would include taking a look at your employee handbook, seeing if you guys have an EAP or other resources available, reaching out to a treatment center like us, and we can have a case management team to go over it with you, or any other counseling or resources that you might have. But what to make the decision whether to disclose or not is a very case-by-case situation. There's a few different ways to manage that, right? First and foremost, the question that we get is if they can even afford to go to treatment, right? And so that could be a significant cost. Let's say you don't have insurance, there could be a cost because you have to pay directly to the treatment, right? Now, the good news is that health insurance does cover substance use disorder and mental health disorder treatment, both at an inpatient and in an outpatient setting. So depending on your specific insurance policy, your specific company that you're with, a lot of times you might have a health insurance through your employer, or you might have a policy through the exchange or some type of individual policy. And those policies will typically have a deductible and an out-of-pocket maximum. And, for example, the deductible could be $1,000, the out-of-pocket maximum could be, let's say, $5,000 or $2,500. That information is something that we are able to provide you if you provide us with your insurance card, your ID, and some additional information. Our team is able to reach out to the insurance company without, disclosing any private information and get that verification of benefits. Once we have the verification of benefits, we can then tell you, hey, look, it looks like everything's been met this year. You really don't have an out-of-pocket cost. Or it looks like, you have a few $100s left on your deductible or your out-of-pocket maximum. And once you hit those limits, then the rest of it is there's no additional charge. So the good news is the actual cost of treatment is taken care of. The majority of the cost is taken care of as long as you have an active insurance policy and you're making your premiums, which is why it's important to keep those policies active. Now, in addition to that, you might be wondering, well, what happens with my job? Will I lose my job? We've talked about that in other posts, but there's different laws that could protect your job based on the eligibility criteria, which could be the FMLA or the equivalent state law. And you would need to take a look at that to see if you meet those criteria, you could have job protection during the time that you take leave. Now, a lot of those are unpaid, right? And so you have to figure out, well, what's my source of income? You might have PTO, you might have vacation time accrued. There might be other laws that give you certain benefits for disability, things of that nature. So there's a lot of different things to consider. Our case management team does help our clients during the course of treatment to apply for different things if they need to apply for disability or apply for different benefits that they can utilize to help them during that difficult time. Ultimately, you just want to make sure that you're aware of these things and that you know that there is support for you to be able to take some time off to get the help that you need, because ultimately if you don't get that help, then you're not going to be even in a position where you're going to do a good job at work or be able to communicate with your family, and you don't want to lose your family and your job because of the consequences of your addiction, right? So that's definitely something we can help clients with. So short-term disability benefits can be an essential financial resource for clients undergoing rehab in California. So that could include inpatient or outpatient treatment. And some of these benefits could help with what we call income replacement. So partial wage replacement is a component of short-term disability. That typically could provide a percentage of the employee's salary, commonly somewhere between 60 to 70%. For a specified period of time. That could range anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. This helps the clients maintain a steady income while they're unable to work during their rehab stay. So that's one component to it. As far as eligibility criteria, that's always an important component to these decisions. There has to be a qualifying condition. So many short-term disability policies cover substance use disorders, and policies cover substance use disorders as a qualifying condition. If the client is receiving treatment in a facility. And so that's where, if you're seeking inpatient treatment or outpatient treatment, we would want to take a look at if that would hit that eligibility criteria, which it typically does. Clients should check for their specific policy to understand the requirements and coverage. So these are all very case-by-case things that we want to look at. The good news is that our team of case managers really has the knowledge to be able to answer those questions for you while you're in treatment. And so that's the team that really works with you on a weekly basis to see if you're eligible, to help you fill out the application, to follow up on the application. And so it's very stressful, right, to have to deal with all this stuff. But our team takes that stress away from you to reduce your anxiety, so we can really help you with all of that and help you navigate that. So you're not on your own having to deal with that. First and foremost, we provide our services that are covered by health insurance. So, whether you have Anthem or Blue Shield or Cigna or Aetna, United Healthcare, or TRICARE West, we have, the ability to take insurance as a third-party payer. So instead of you having to pay directly, you pay your insurance premiums, and then as long as you've met your own out-of-pocket expenses, there might be some small expenses related to deductibles or out-of-pocket maximums, but the majority of the cost for the treatment is paid by that insurance payer, right? Now, specifically, OceanRock has a lot of different contracts. We might be out of network with some payers, and so if we're out of network, then if you have a PPO policy, then you can come to us and we can provide you with the treatment. And again, the majority of the services are covered by insurance. There might be some deductibles and out-of-pocket costs. Now, if you have an HMO or you have, let's say, you're an active military or you're a veteran, OceanRock also has contracts with several payers and has contracts with TriWest and TRICARE West and different types of agencies. And so, with those contracts, allow us to contract with those third parties with specific rates, and that reduces your out-of-pocket, cost as well. And so really depending on your specific situation, depending on your policy, you could have anywhere from no cost to, just whatever your deductible or out-of-pocket is Usually the majority of your treatment for somebody seeking a 30-day inpatient, or in our case with OceanRock, you might be in our outpatient program for several months, and so during the course of that time, we can really provide you with extended care, and the majority of that care is provided through your insurance or through these other third parties. So at OceanRock, we have a multitude of offerings, right? We have our intensive outpatient program, we have our outpatient program. You can get help anywhere from, let's say you want to just get help for a month, you want to get help for up to 6 months. I mean, we can provide you with extended care. During the course of your treatment, we have a lot of flexible options, like telehealth. We really provide a customized schedule for you. Do you need help in the evenings? We have a program in the evenings. Do you need help during the day? We have programming during the day. So we've given you as much flexibility. So whether it's you need to take time off of work to get help, we can do that. If you need to get help while you're working, and this is something that you're doing in the evenings or depending on your work schedule, we can do that. And so, those services include individual counseling, and that includes therapy. So we have a therapist that's going to work with you, one-on-one. And then we also have case management. So if you need to deal with issues about disability benefits or, job protection or, navigating the employment component, or any other thing where, maybe you want to go back to school, you're looking for a job, our case management team works with you, to help you navigate those situations. And then we have our group counseling, and that's somewhere where you can get into a group of people who have similar issues than you, and you guys can hear each other out and talk to each other with the guided counseling of our group facilitators, and they help navigate these discussions. And these discussions can range anywhere from relapse prevention to dealing with specific mental health issues, CBT, DBT. They could include vocational trainings, really anything that's evidence-based are programs that allow you to have these different myriad of group counseling sessions to help you navigate your mental health or substance use disorder treatment. So through the course of that stay, which can be several months, it can be very customizable, we work with you in a very confidential way to give you the help that you need. So for clients looking to come to treatment, it really depends what family needs we're talking about, right? So, a lot of our clients are younger clients, 18 to 26. They're either living at home or they might be living outside of the home, but they're dependent on their parents or their family for financial needs and things of that nature. But then we also have clients who are employed, who, are older. We have clients anywhere from 30 to 45 to 50, 55, 65. So people who are established and they might have been doing well for a while, but now they've relapsed, or they might have, taken a step back, or maybe all the stress and all this pressure has built up and something's been triggered where now there's a mental health or substance use disorder that they need help with. So for those types of clients, it really depends on your situation, but in order to meet the family needs, it really just depends on if you're the one providing the support to the family financially, then things like FMLA or Disability Act and things where our case management team can try to work with you to see, if you can get some compensation while you're in treatment, or if it's navigating health insurance, or if it's navigating, your eligibility criteria. Those are things that we can help with as well. Outside of that, we've mentioned that the health insurance does cover the majority of your treatment, subject to deductibles and out-of-pocket. And so you don't have to be worried about significant medical costs to burden your family with. Again, that's something that we would look at it on a case-by-case perspective to see if you have coverage or not and see how much coverage you have. Ultimately, if you're somebody that's, getting the support of your family, we can also help navigate your family on how they can continue to support you in a productive way. Where, and if you're a family member watching this, there's ways to provide rewards and incentives to somebody dealing with addiction that's not going to enable them and make things worse. And so we can give you the family support and family counseling that you need to learn how to, coexist with a loved one who is dealing with these severe issues. and try to help them. So employee assistance programs, also known as EAPs, are employer-sponsored programs designed to provide employees and families with the support for various personal and work-related issues. The EAPs can be particularly valuable for employees entering rehabilitation for substance abuse or substance use disorders or mental health disorders. Here's how they can work and help support you. First and foremost, a lot of these EAPs offer what we call confidential counseling. So you can reach out to the EAP and have that conversation with them without them notifying your employer directly. So if that's something you're concerned about, the EAP communication is typically confidential. They can also act as a referral service. And so they might have relationships with different treatment centers, or they might have certain recommendations. And so if you're considering, well, how do I help navigate where to go? They might be a resource. Also, if you're looking online, or if, for example, you're watching this video, we provide those resources as well. And we're a good program that you can look into. So the EAP definitely, though, has the ability to provide you with some recommendations to see what would be a good eligibility fit. They also provide what we call crisis intervention. So they might, have some of their own counseling or some of their own support in the, like a hotline or something to just handle that immediate crisis, help you navigate that situation. So it really just depends on the EAP and what the specific, things that they have, but that's one resource. Another thing that they might provide is a workshop or training. So again, these are all different types of programs. They might give you legal or financial consultations. They might have some family support services. So really one of the big benefits of the EAP is to do what we call an early intervention, right? So you don't want to wait until it's too late to ask for help. You start seeing you have some problems, don't wait until, you're just completely not able to even show up to work. If you can reach out, the sooner the better. And ultimately it kind of gives you that support that your company might have, that type of sponsored program to give you that confidentiality without having to bring up those concerns. EAPs can be a wonderful resource. Also, we could be a wonderful resource. It really just depends on who you feel comfortable reaching out to, but we definitely think highly of the EAPs. Health insurance, it can mitigate or almost eliminate your individual cost or your family's cost for treatment. It really depends on your specific policy. So whenever somebody's interested into coming into treatment, let's say they reach out to us, we ask for some basic information such as your ID, your health insurance card, and your date of birth. And having that information allows us to run what's called a verification of benefits. Once we run that, we have an understanding of what type of insurance you have and what type of coverage you have. We have a lot of in-network contracts. So let's say you have HMO policies, we can provide you help. If you don't have an HMO, if you don't have something that would go in-network, if you have a PPO policy, we also could do it out-of-network. And again, in all these scenarios, we can give you what's your deductible, what's your out-of-pocket cost, and a lot of times those are relatively low. But regardless of what they are, we can explain that to you. And insurance covers treatment. It covers substance use treatment. It covers mental health treatment. And so that's something that communication we can have. As far as replacing your income while you're in treatment, that's something where the disability benefits could be helpful. And our case management team can help you to determine whether you're eligible, help you fill out the applications, help you submit them, help you follow up with them. And so that could be a partial wage replacement depending on your eligibility criteria. So definitely these are things that you always want to take a look at your specific situation, but there's a lot of resources that could help you get the time off to get the help you need, and a lot of those costs would be covered. You might still have some out-of-pocket costs, but it would be a lot less than if you had to go out of pocket without those benefits. So our team depends on where you are. So if you're looking to come to treatment and you haven't made the decision yet, our admissions team and our counselors can help you navigate the questions you have, such as, what will the treatment cost? Does my insurance cover it? All those types of things. And again, we'll help navigate that with asking you the questions, getting the information we need, and providing you with, some estimates of what it would look like depending on verifying your benefits. If you don't have insurance, we can also discuss with you sliding scale. We can discuss with you, in the event that you might need a scholarship for treatment. We look at all the different options and try to help people as much as possible. During the course of your treatment, we have a case management team that helps you navigate things like whether you're eligible for disability benefits, other types of social benefits, whether you need help getting your ID back. A lot of people depending on what they're dealing with, really need the help to do these things. And we reduce your anxiety and stress by taking these big, tasks off of your plate and really providing you guidance and help during the course of your treatment to do all of these things. So that's one of the biggest, our case management team is highly regarded and really helps you navigate all these situations. Long-term financial planning, we offer vocational sessions and vocational help, both in a group and individual setting, where we can go over things like resume building, credit score. If you've had damage to your credit score, what are things you can do to improve that? The ability to get loans or to get a car, to get, the best rates possible, would hinge on your ability to, don't ignore, you might have had a hit, right? There's ways to recover and restore that. We can give you the resources that you need to do that. Again, resume building, you might be looking for a job, you might be looking for, some type of advancement in your career or so an entry level job, depending on where you're at, we help you kind of cultivate that. Job applications, things like that, we help you going through that process. If you're already well established, but you now need to go into treatment and take some time off, we can take a look at what our financial resources, such as, estate planning. You might be concerned about your kids. I'm doing well, but my kids need help. And what if I'm not here? What if something happens to me? I actually happen to be an estate planning attorney. And that was where I started my career before I came into the, executive of a treatment facility. And so, estate planning, trust in estates, wills, how can I provide funding so if something happens to my child, if I'm not able to provide for them, that we can provide the buffers where we can give them the help that they need and just not blow the whole inheritance, right? So really depending on where you're at in what your social demographic is and what your type of resources you need, we can give you the type of guidance for, both immediate and long-term financial planning. And we also have access to other attorneys or financial counselors who would be able to provide you with additional support. So, we have a lot of resources available for you. Financial counseling is definitely something you need to do. And, part of what we do during your treatment is look at budgets, right? And so some people, regardless of whether you make a little bit of money or a lot of money, balancing a budget is an issue everybody. Obviously the government can't balance a budget, right? So, let alone all of us individually. So these are resources that we actually go over with you and we help you. Let's break it down. Let's look at your phone bill. Let's look at your mortgage. Let's look at your rent payments. Let's look at all these different expenses. And we actually have all these different exercises where you could put it all, and work with your case management, or if you're comfortable, work out in a group setting. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how much money you make or how much money you bring in, how much you spend is equally, if not more important. And so balancing a budget and being able to maybe shed certain costs that you might not have needed prior to coming into treatment and leaving treatment with, more focus in terms of how to balance that budget. That's something that we spend a lot of time on. Another thing that we can spend time on with our case management is whether or not you meet any disability benefits or any other sources of income, Social Security, that might, be available to you based on your specific condition. And then ultimately, making sure that you can go back into the workforce, or if you're in school, go back and get the degree you need to become a productive member of society and really help generate income both for you and your family. And so these are things that during the course of your treatment, getting you to a place where you can go back and be confident and, manage your anxiety and stress and all these other things and have the coping skills to be able to handle, very difficult, challenging issues at work. And so you can be the best member in the community, and also to really help your family or yourself with these financial issues. So OceanRock is an outpatient program. We provide anywhere from 1 day to 5 days a week, anywhere from 1 hour a day to 3 hours a day of individual, group, counseling, or therapy sessions, right? And by doing that, we really give you the flexibility, whether it's in the evening, during the day. We want to work with you on your schedule. Most of it is via telehealth as well. And so that flexibility is there. Now, OceanRock itself is an aftercare program. So let's say that you started in residential or inpatient treatment and you did your 30 days, or sometimes it's a little bit less or more, depending on your specific medical necessity. OceanRock is the next step. So then you go into our outpatient program. You start with more of what we call an intensive outpatient program. That could be anywhere from 3 to 5 days, 3 hours a day. To then, once you kind of navigate that, you can go into our outpatient program, which is again anywhere from 1 to 3 days, at least 1 hour a day. And so those programs really do give you the ongoing support for several months. We've had clients that are with us for anywhere from a month to up to a year, and getting that aftercare that they need. And so we provide that continuum of care for you. Now, if you're completely done with programming and you want to just see maybe an individual therapist, or maybe you want to just do, AA meetings or whatever that is, our case management team works with you to help set up that next step. But OceanRock itself is really a significant component of an aftercare program. So for clients returning back to work, it really depends on how they left, the work. If they left and, whether they informed their HR, their company, that they were leaving for treatment, if they were specific about what they were leaving for, if they were more generic about it, I'm just going on medical leave. You want to go back into the workforce without the stigma of, this is somebody who had to go to treatment, for example, right? And so there's a lot of confidentiality and privacy when you're in treatment, where we don't disclose why you're actually here, or that even if you are here. Like if somebody calls and says, is Charles in our program, we can't admit or deny that unless there's some legal subpoena or something of that nature. And even then, there's a lot of protection. So it's not something that we would disclose, but for you who's going back into that environment, my recommendations are, you want to go back and just really kind of get back into the game, right? Whatever your job is, whatever your title is, it can be an entry-level job, it could be an executive-level job. You want to be prepared to go back to work. So it's really what you're doing in treatment to get you ready for that, to get you the help that you need to feel confident that you can go back into work. We can also provide you with the aftercare resources to give you continued support while you're at work. And so issues might come up, issues that previously would have stressed you out or previously would have triggered you. Obviously, they could still do it, but we can give you the coping skills and the ongoing support. And I think that's an important component, is that don't just go, I'm in a 30-day residential program, now I'm going to go back to work and I'm not going to do any aftercare. I highly recommend an aftercare program in order for you to get continued support, so you can deal with issues that come up in real time, rather than, bottling everything back up and then, getting triggered and then ultimately dealing with a relapse. So there's a lot of different components to it, but it's really, you want to be able to go back, transition back into your work and, do the job and the tasks that they need. But if you're able to go back and do the exact same job, that's always what our clients prefer. If not, then you might want to look at, being placed in an equivalent position, or maybe a less stressful position where you can, kind of get your feet back into the game. And so again, very case specific, but these are issues and things that we can help you with during your stay, so you can kind of have an action, a next steps and an action plan for when you want to go back. So So under the Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA, individuals recovering from substance use disorders or mental health disorders may request reasonable accommodations in the workplace to support their recovery. Here's just some examples of what those accommodations could be. One would be like a flexible work schedule, right? So let's say, you want modified hours, part-time work, depending on how much work you're willing to handle at that time. You can request those. And so those are examples of accommodations. You might not be ready to go back into full-time work, or maybe go back to your existing position. I know a lot of people do want to do that, and that's the ultimate goal. But if you don't, and you want those reasonable accommodations, the ADA does, support that reasonable accommodation. Remote work options. Now, this might be something your employer may provide, may not provide, but to the extent that they provide that, perhaps some of your work can be done remotely, or maybe certain days you can come in, certain days you can work remotely. If that's something that you're looking for, that could be an example of an accommodation. Taking time off for treatment, we talked about that, prior to this, but depending on your specific situation, you might be able to take some time off to go to treatment and have certain protections under the ADA so that you can come back once you're done with that and get those types of accommodations. And then ultimately providing a supportive environment in the workplace, can be something that could potentially be a protection under the ADA. And so, part of that is up to you too as well. Are you willing to do, take that less of a role, or the changes of responsibility, or the part-time? That's kind of a communication piece where, if you don't ask for it, because some people just say, hey, bring up these issues, but then they're not willing to take any modifications. To the extent that you're willing to take the modifications and you're, seeking the accommodations, then that's a dialogue that you can have with your employer to see if that's something that, is available to you. But the ADA does provide you with, and tells the employer that they should provide those reasonable accommodations. So one of the big problems that I see is people taking on too much, right? It obviously at home, but also right now we're talking about the work-life balance, right? And so it really depends on your situation. Are you somebody who has 3 kids, is running your own business, or might be an executive or a high-level employee at a company? These are kind of high-stress positions. Certain sales positions, certain roles where people rely on you and what you do to generate revenue or income for the company. You really have to ask yourself: am I a good fit for this role? Is this something that I can do? Is this something that I'm willing to take on this additional stress and pressure of these roles? So a lot of that is kind of some soul searching to see if, hey, is this career or is this role something that makes sense for me, or is this what's too much pressure, too much stress, and that's creating my anxiety, creating my need to drink or use drugs or alcohol, or triggering my mental health issues, right? So part of that is just really looking on the inside. The other component is, what makes sense for you to, how to balance all of it, right? Managing the work-life balance requires a combination of being able to have the coping skills to handle stress and triggers at work, but also to handle different stress and triggers at home. So when you're home, you feel like, hey, I should be, my parents or my kids or whoever it is should give me all the love and attention and support that I need. Look, I'm dealing with so much stress and pressure at work. I come home and I have to deal with even more stress and pressure, right? So again, it just depends on the relationships that you have. Part of the thing we advocate is to include your family in the treatment process, in the recovery process, right? Your wife might need to be in the sessions. Your parents might need to be in the sessions. We want to repair any strains on the relationship caused by mental health or by substance use disorders. And, you don't want drinking and using, to be the excuses for why everything fell apart, because they're the legitimate excuses, but now it's like, well, what can we do to repair all that? And so the repairing of all that is an important component, but ultimately, in order for you to navigate and manage the work-life balance, you have to look at those two things both separately and how they integrate together. And you need to be able to provide enough support in your home life for your family, but also be able to show up and do your job. And we can help you with that if you're in our program. We can, you can even be in our aftercare program to give you the support. We have a lot of people that could be, people who are actually still working and are doing our outpatient program. Or we have people who are, mothers who might have a job, but they also have the responsibility of raising kids. And there's, they need this help. Like, how do I talk to my husband about, being vulnerable and all those types of things. So again, it just really depends on your specific situation, but you just need help. I think asking for help and getting help, that's really the first step, and getting the ongoing support and the help is something that you can use to strengthen you until you feel comfortable to deal with these challenges yourself. If you're concerned about whether or not you could even go to treatment, if you don't go to treatment, you're going to end up losing your job, losing your family anyway, right? And so again, it depends on what kind of treatment you need. I'm talking about if you're actively using, you're in withdrawal, you're not showing up to work, you're not showing up for family events, you're afraid to go home at night, somebody who needs to be, at an inpatient residential setting, need help with to get detoxed, you really need to just go to treatment at that point, right? That's whether you've hit rock bottom or you're near that. If you don't go and get that help you need, you're gonna lose everything, or you've already lost everything and now you want to get it back. Now, if you're looking at an outpatient program, that could be either as a continuum of care from inpatient, and that's just a part of your aftercare planning, or it could be the first thing that you're looking for. You're like, hey, look, I don't need to go to detox, or I don't need to go to residential treatment right now, but I really can't do this by myself. I need a support system. And OceanRock specifically is an outpatient program that provides you with that support system, both through group sessions, individual sessions, to help you navigate these questions, concerns, release your anxiety, talk about it, have support, have other people dealing with the same issues, and have professionals, whether it's therapists or case management team, or any other professionals to help you navigate that. And so ultimately, you want to be able to ask for help. And if you're hesitating whether you should get help or not, you can reach out to us to go over your specific concerns. If it's financial, if it's whether the cost of treatment, those are all things that our admissions team and counseling team can help you prior to even making the decision, so that you can make an informed decision. But anyway, the first thing you do is pick up the phone, make the phone call, and then take that first step, because a lot of times the fear of taking that first step is the biggest fear of all. So once you've taken the step to get the help that you need, that provides both a huge relief for you and for your family, right? A lot of times, families have been worried about you for a while, right? They don't know what to do. They don't know, how can I help? I've tried everything. How can I help this person, right? Some people will reach out to what's called an interventionist, or somebody to try to intervene and help the family out. Other people are just trying to see if we can get you the help that you need. So one of the biggest barriers is the fact that people don't seek the help, don't seek the treatment. But once you've made the decision to take that leap of faith, to pick up the phone, to make that call, and to enter into whether it's a residential program or an outpatient program, then you've really released a lot of your anxiety and fear and stress just by making that decision for both you and your family. Now, obviously that's just step number one. There's a lot of work to do after that. And, there's a lot of things that you need to do to, get the treatment that you need and to get the ongoing support that you need. But, that initial decision, because that's something that, people are resistant to, and it's because of fear, it's because of stigma, it's because of what are people going to think. But you being in active addiction or dealing with an active mental health disorder, whether you have compartmentalized it or not, people can see through that. And people, you don't want to wait till it's too late. Imagine the family doesn't want to hear from this after it's too late. They'd be relieved to know that you're actually seeking help a lot more than, facing the consequences of you not seeking the help. In my opinion, the first step, if you're actually looking for treatment, is to either pick up the phone, call our number, or go on our website, learn a little bit more about us, and fill out our contact us or our intake form. Once we have that information, then and you feel comfortable to talk to us, we're happy to talk to you in any way that you feel comfortable. Some clients want to just text, we can do that. Some clients want to do the chat, we can do that. Some clients want to talk on the phone, we can do that. Some clients want to just fill out the information and then we reach out to them, we can do that. So we want to make this as easy for you as possible, depending on where you're at. But ultimately, by getting that information, we can give you the information you need to see what your costs of treatment will be, what kind of treatment you're going to get, where you're going to live, and all the, how you can protect your job, what's the cost, and all the different questions that you have once you enter into the treatment program. And so pick up the phone, send a message, fill out a chat, whatever it takes. Just take that first step, and then we'll take care of the rest.